Hey guys, I was asked if I could create a metahuman of Alexander the Great. So I found this Roman copy of a bust on Sketchfab. It's made by a Greek sculptor named Lysippus, and it was made of Alexander during his lifetime. So I downloaded it and brought it into Blender, and I edited it a bit so I could bring it into Unreal Engine to create a metahuman. I have to take off the hair and just focus on the face. You don't normally realize all the things that are going to go wrong with the metahuman. I normally rush through from beginning to end, so I'm just showing you the whole rush through. I noticed that I get one of the eyes a little wrong and the ears a little deformed. There's some things I'd really like to make changes, but I also have somebody else create hair for me, and so I need to give somebody else the measurements for the hair, and we all kind of work at the same time. I love this bust of Alexander the Best. It reminds me of the Houdon portrait of George Washington. It seems as if it was created using a life casting as a reference model or actual measurements from Alexander's face. The original was made during Alexander's lifetime during the 4th century BC. Lysippus was born in 390 BC and died in 300 BC. He was 90 years old when he died. Alexander the Great was born in 356 BC and died in 323 BC. We have this great quote from Plutarch in his book, Life of Alexander, about Lysippus. The outward appearance of Alexander is best represented by the statues of him which Lysippus made. And it was by this artist alone that Alexander himself thought it fit that he should be modeled. For those peculiarities which many of his successors and friends afterwards tried to imitate, namely the poise of the neck, which is bent slightly to the left, and the melting of the gaze of the eyes, this artist has accurately observed. Lysippus is credited with the stereotypical godlike representation of Alexander's flowing lion-like hair. His lips are parted and he's looking upward in what has become known as a Lysipian gaze. I could digress for quite some time about Greek sculpture, but there's a couple of things you should know. You should know that Lysippus is considered one of 3 major sculptors of the classical Greek era. He wrote a classical Greek canon of proportions that was different from his predecessors. He began the canon of comparison of the human body to 8 heads tall. It's a proportional approach to mapping the human body using a single head as a unit of comparison. It's a method I learned in college that still works in life drawing. I'm not just stopping at Alexander. I want to rebuild an entire Hellenistic style city. And I've started by mapping out the reconstruction of the entire city of Ai-Khanoum. Now, like the streets, the buildings, and the temples, everything. And this site has been off limits off and on over the years, since its discovery in the 60s. It was briefly excavated in the 70s and 80s by the French, I believe, and then had to be abandoned. So it's pretty cool because it represents Alexander the Great's vision going furthest east. And while it probably wasn't created during Alexander's lifetime, it was about as far as his Macedonian empire expanded. So AiKhanoum was founded around the late 3rd millennium BC. It evolved from an outpost trading with the Indus Valley. The Persians established control, but whether AiKhanoum existed before Alexander the Great, it's still a historical puzzle. Historians debate who transformed this small settlement into a major city, and initially it was thought to be another Alexandria city, but it kind of faces identification challenges. AiKhanoum expanded in stages. There's a thought that it likely started under the Seleucidian Empire. Later, AiKhanoum transformed into a military stronghold with administration functions. Then there was an invasion during the Seku-Greco Wars, but the victories by the local leaders brought growth and prosperity for a while. By the mid-2nd century BC, it kind of marked AiKhanoum's zenith. The city boasted a grand palace, a gymnasium, and a rebuilt sanctuary. Nomadic invasions in 130 BC spelled the end of the Hellenistic rule, but AiKhanoum endured. The city repurposed public buildings as homes. Its final signs of habitation date from the 2nd century AD. Ai-Khanoum's journey reflects the ebb and flow of ancient civilizations, and it's just such a cool thing to be able to visualize. Let me know what you think, guys.